Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. History Matters. Hey guys, my name's Connor. If you're new, quick little video. History Matters does super short videos. Some people don't like that. I'm not a good learner, okay? And short videos like this give me a foothold in a subject that I otherwise would have just been overwhelmed if it was done more precisely and perfectly chronologically one by one. When I love these, you can just fast forward if you to start video or original link top description. When I get short, oversimplified teachings, educational videos about something, I don't feel overwhelmed, and I'm like, huh, that's cool. And then I actually want to keep learning. That's why I love videos or channels like History Matters. Let's go. Preemptive like, original link, top. We did all the things. My name's Connor. Hey guys, why didn't Poland hand over Danzig to Germany? Let's find out.
The lead up to World War II saw many nations hand over lands to Germany in return for not being invaded. Results varied. Germany was quickly able to regain the Saarland, annex the entirety of Austria, take the Sudetenland before occupying and dividing up Czechoslovakia, as well as bullying Lithuania into handing over Memel. And the Western Allies...
Okay. To whom it may concern, please don't take any more land from your neighbors, either by force or by the threat of it. If you do not immediately yield to these conditions, we shall be forced to send you another letter. I always need to pause for these little things with History Matter. They're funny. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. I mean, look what happened to Czechoslovakia, or
to regain the Saarland, annex the entirety of Austria, take the Sudetenland before occupying and dividing up Czechoslovakia.
I mean, look at what Czechoslovakia gave them, the Sudetenland, even though I think it wasn't so much their choice as it was the other allies being like, okay, you can take the Sudetenland, but not the rest. And then they did. So if you're Poland, it's like, well, look at what happened to Czechoslovakia when they gave them a little land. They just took the rest.
As well as bullying Lithuania into handing over Memel. And the Western Allies did absolutely nothing to stop this. But when the time came for Germany to demand Danzig and the lands around it, the Polish said no. So why? Why was Poland the first to say no to Germany? Well, technically, Poland never actually said no. Or yes. In fact, the ultimatum was never actually delivered, and the German government simply reported that the Polish had rejected their demands, thus giving them an excuse to invade. However, we do know from Polish communications with Britain that they would have rejected all of the floated proposals anyway, and thus the question remains. So as that they would have rejected
It's like, that hasn't worked so far.
all of the floated proposals anyway, and thus the question remains. So as you'll know, the late 1930s saw Germany's attempts to rewrite or ignore the Treaty of Versailles. Rearmament, secret or otherwise, and an aggressive foreign policy marked a change in the balance of power in Europe. Now, the Western Allies did a terrible job of dissuading or stopping this German power grab. They accepted and allowed the return of the Saarland, their protests against the annexation of Austria were completely toothless, and in the case of Czechoslovakia, their fear of another major war meant that they actively helped Germany in taking the Sudetenland.
I really want to watch the interwar period episodes from the World War II channel, because I will never... I've seen some explanations by you guys, but it still is wild. It's not like... Because you just 20 years ago just defeated them and had these from the worst war of all time, the Great War. And then, okay, maybe you didn't realize how much they were rearming. Okay, maybe you didn't think Hitler was as much of a threat as he was. Both of those seem a little strange. But then You're giving him a bunch of land back just for no reason to not start a war?
And as for Lithuania, Britain and France simply didn't acknowledge anything having happened at all.
Jesus.
Now, to begin, Poland never actually owned Danzig. It was technically a separate entity, one that lived in a sort of legal limbo where it was kind of free, kind of beholden to Polish economic policy, and kind of a League of Nations protectorate. It had its own government and police force, its people were overwhelmingly German, and it very much wanted to join Germany. But Germany didn't just want Danzig, but also these lands in which a referendum would be held. The catch being that all the Germans that had left the area after World War I would be allowed to vote, which essentially all but guaranteed its return to Germany. As such, for Poland, this was far too much to concede and would importantly see it cut off from maritime trade. The Germans had promised to allow the Polish access to its ports in the north, but Germany made a lot of promises and kept very few of them. Not having access to these ports would make Poland economically reliant on Germany and thus little more than a puppet. Another reason that the Polish said no was that unlike Czechoslovakia, Lithuania or Austria, Poland wasn't a small nation. 2 decades prior, it had defeated the USSR and asserted its right to exist. The Polish people would never accept meekly handing over territory to a nation which, on paper, was disarmed. And the Polish government, despite being a dictatorship, knew that if it did this, it would fall to a popular uprising, because it had based its right to rule on keeping Poland safe and whole. Reason number 3 was the belief that so long as France and Britain upheld their promises, Poland could hold the Germans off. The French and Polish militaries knew that their alliance meant that Germany would have to fight a two-front war. They knew that if one fell on its own, the other would follow soon afterwards, which in the eyes of Poland made it invaluable to France. And as such, Polish leaders knew that they could rely on Paris. And this, combined with Britain's promise to defend Poland, meant that they were safe from leaders knew that they could rely on Paris. And this, combined with Britain's promise
You're Poland, we promise that we'll fight the Germans if they invade you. That'll stop them good and proper. Best wishes, HM government.
to defend Poland meant that they were safe from German invasion. Until they weren't, that is, and then partition. Thank you for watching with a special...
It'll never stop being fascinating to me. Great video, as always, obviously, from History Matters. But it won't... It'll never not bewilder me. How... Okay, they're rearming. Okay, they have this really rambunctious leader, right? They're rearming, they shouldn't be. Okay, they want the Rhineland, Sudetenland, Anschluss, take Austria. Okay, sure, fine. You want parts of Czechoslovakia. All right, fine, but that's it. Okay, we took the rest of Czechoslovakia. Okay, but if Poland invades, like, it's crazy the extent. And then if I heard correctly, the Allied powers then said, Poland, come on, just give a little bit of land. It's like, how, I wonder if Germany would have just kept asking for little pieces of this or that or this instead of full-on invasion, how far would the Allied powers go to let them have things just to avoid another war? It just seems so strange to me. And then when Poland is invaded, they declare war, right? War starts, but they don't do anything. And then they're setting up for a war, and Germany just pushes through, surrounds them, and France falls. It's just mind-blowing the amount of hesitance of war that people wanted, or to the amount that people wanted to avoid war when you were the winning side in the First World War, and it was the Great War. But it's so... Maybe because you had the Maginot Line that maybe you'll be more successful if you let the Germans invade. But why not attack Germany as they are invading Poland? And then, so now they have two fronts right away. But it would only be until Operation Barbarossa, a year later, or like a year and a half later, that then you'd have a two-front war. But at that point, France was conquered. and you'd have to go into France. It will never cease to blow my mind how cautious the Allied powers were, and how much and think about how that must have made the Germans feel, and Hitler feel, and the Wehrmacht and the generals, that like they are literally letting us get anything. And then it's like, okay, fine, I'm putting my foot down. You can take parts of the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia. And, you know, Czechoslovakia is like, wait, what? What are you talking about? No. And they take it, but you can't invade it. And then they invade it. Oh, it's like if you're Germany, their words mean nothing. They're empty threats, all of them. And then surely, if I invade Poland, then it's gonna start. But they don't. It's very strange. And obviously I'm from America, so we're not exactly proactive when it comes to World War. We're always late, right? But we don't have the same immediate threat that you guys have. We're an ocean away. You're right next to them. I'll never understand it. It's crazy. I might just start watching the interwar period episodes right now because I need this answered. Love y'all. Hope everyone's doing well. See you guys next time. Bye.